people are able to view this online afterwards. It's always that PD on demand kind of stuff that we appreciate so much. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's see if I can get it, just the application window, and share, and my timer to remember to share my screen and present. So thank you again for coming today. This is our second to the last EdTech meeting for this school year. I'm sure that you're counting down the days left in the school year. So we will have this meeting today, and we'll have another one in April, and then we'll take some time off, but I'll also be providing some PD across the summer. So today, one of our topics is going to be podcasting. I'm not sure if some of you are podcasters or podcast listeners, but we'll talk about that. I know most of you, but I am Karen Leonard. My title is the Director of Education Technology and Computer Science at the Oklahoma State Department of Education. You'll notice a couple things. My email address is right there. Please feel free to email me with any questions you might have. And you'll notice throughout the whole presentation, I'm trying to learn from watching what others do. I have a bit.ly link to this presentation in the top right corner, and you will see it throughout the entire slide deck. That way you can join or take it anytime if you want to. So, and today, just to get started, I would love to have you introduce yourself, your name, your role, and where you're from, and share if you have a favorite podcast. It can be personal type. It could be professional. I have found out that I have listened to podcasts a whole lot more lately. I used to run listening to music, but now I've decided to run listening to podcasts. And I think it kind of takes away the stress of running for me. And I've been really interested in some, I'm not seeing any of podcasts in there, but I'm going to tell you that one of my favorite podcasts is 1001 Classic Short Stories. So I'm going to put that in the chat box. 1001 Classic Short Stories. My husband loves to listen to podcasts when he runs, or books on tape. And I find that if I'm reading a book, I want to read it all at one time. And if I'm running and I have to stop and listen at the end of a chapter and wait until the next day to listen to the next chapter, then I just kind of fall apart. So I really have appreciated listening to some short stories. And if you have a favorite podcast, like I said, please feel free to add that, and also kind of tell us where you're from and what your role is. I'd love to connect you with other educators across the state. So while you're doing that, I'm going to move on. Today, Art Pop Talk. Art history and pop culture. I love to learn new things, so that is awesome. Today, we're going to talk maybe about some of the successes and lessons you've learned so far this school year. Discuss some of the advantages to using podcasts with your students or for yourself, and also provide an open forum for any question and answer time. And welcome, Jennifer. She says armchair expert with Dax Shepard is a pretty good one also. Love that. Great. So our school year, I have heard lots of things. EMS and emergency medicine podcasts. You know, that's pretty interesting, Stephen. In my doctoral classes, we have someone who is an EMS trainer, and I am sure that he would like to listen to that. And Jenny shared Bible recap podcasts, personal, and Google Tribe. Love the Google Tribe. Those are great. I actually have a couple others to share with you toward the end of this. So, okay, so your school year, we are finally at the end of March. There's only 2 months left, and you now have the ability to share some of your biggest successes, because there might be people and other school districts that are going, I need to hear something positive, or tell me something that's worked for you that I might be able to share and use within my own school or school district. So, please feel free to unmute yourself or type something in the chat. What's been a great success for you? Sarah, I have not heard that podcast. She's obsessed with the Harry Potter and Sacred Text, and happier with Gretchen Rubin. I'm going to tell you one of the things that I have been so excited about this school year has been some of the learning to embrace technology, especially educational technology. I've been in a role as an EdTech leader for going on 10 years now, and so many people have been so slow or reticent or maybe apprehensive to embrace new technology. And I'm just really excited to see some of the change. Not everyone is embracing it. Some of them are like, oh, I can't wait till I'm just back face to face. But there's really some amazing things that you can do with technology. I think one of my favorite learning experiences when I was in the classroom was, it was before the discussion board time. I would have conversations with my students in email about some of the books that we were reading. And it gave me that opportunity to communicate one-on-one with my students and find out a little bit more personal behind their thoughts and impressions of some of the stories that we were reading. Anyone else have anything positive, uplifting, big successes for them? Okay. Adrian said that the first year implementing Canvas has had some bumps and bruises, but a Canvas team of teachers, I think, is great, because we know that that is a great way to have other teachers, communicate and share. And, as maybe an EdTech coach, you may not have that experience with it in the classroom, and it's great to be able to have those people to turn to. Stephen, do you want to share anything about kicking off a virtual learning program and some successes with that?
It was quite the challenge. We had switched over from Odyssey-ware to Edgenuity at the same time. So we were all kind of discombobulated, learning everything. It was a real challenge there at the first. But now that I've got everything normed out, ready to go, it's a lot easier. It just takes a lot of work in the beginning. That should have been done over the summer.
There's a lot of those, if only things would have been, you would have had that time or the forethought or everything. Raymond, you have your hand up, something you want to share, a success.
Oh, it was I have a computer repair class, and I hadn't done one of those yet. And I was looking for something, of course, we went back in person and then kind of out and in and out and in. But I was looking for something for the distance learners that we had, because we're blend, we don't have everybody there. Test Out, though, came out with their free curriculum for Oklahoma schools this year. And so I signed up for that, and it's awesome. It's amazing. They've got modules with labs that you do online. Doesn't matter what type of platform you're on. Chromebooks is what we have, the 300 series. It works excellent with those. And so I'm excited about them, taking their test. It's PC Pro, I think, is what the one that we're in right now, but gives excellent tutorials on it. I'm doing it along with them. I'm learning a lot, doing some programming and computer repair, and just, it really prepares them for getting certified as a first-year tech. So they would be able to go out and meet the requirements of somebody getting on that way. So covers everything for career tech. I love it.
That's really awesome. And it also gives students not only some of the leadership, maybe, I don't know if you're allowing them to help other students or other teachers in the building, but what a great hands-on learning skill. And if you may not have a big tech department or, you know, a help desk. That's awesome.
Yeah, we do work orders for extra credit. So, and we send that out to the school. So we've only got 12 teachers in the whole junior high school. So
any help counts.
That's right.
Anyone else have any successes that they'd like to share? Okay, come on. There has to be some successes, but.
I'll go.
Okay, yes, Jenny, thank you.
So like you, Stephen, we started our year with Edgenuity for elementary. It did not work for us here. And so content creators, along with all the instructional techs, came together and built an entire K-5 curriculum through Canvas for our virtual students. And there were a lot of tears and blood, you know, shed over that. But now that we are adopting a new ELA curriculum, it'll be a constant update. We have a new ELA curriculum next year, so we'll have to update all the ELA science the next year and so on and so forth. But it seems to really be working now that we've gotten that figured out.
That is awesome. So that kind of goes along with the next screen that was best opportunities to learn for the future. Notice I didn't say failures because they all are opportunities. And I think, you know, anything that had to do with Canvas and the switch many of your schools did to implementing Canvas, you now know maybe how best to help new teachers to your district when you open in the fall, or new students, and hopefully as students transfer from district to district, hopefully you won't have to do as much student training, but any other opportunities to learn that you're like, man, this kind of didn't go so well, but
experience is a hard teacher. Our district with the K through 5, we used Edgenuity's Path Blazer, which is actually a supplemental program, and I couldn't ever get that through anybody's head. So they're still using that, and it's a big giant pain. They're still learning, and I'm making inroads on getting them switched over.
You know, it's always, yeah, sometimes things don't always work, and sometimes you find other opportunities that work better, and you know, that's frustrating to everyone involved, but you may not have had those other opportunities to improve and to see what would and wouldn't work.
By the way, Jenny, Edgenuity's coming out with their own K through 5 curriculum inside the Edgenuity LMS.
Nice. Just the pricing could not continue. It was not, you know, sustainable for us, but that is nice to hear. Should make that a lot helpful for you guys.
Well, in order to be respectful of your time, I am going to move on. I wanted to share something that we've been working on and just give you a little heads up. We know that as many schools finish the school year, some are planning to continue on with some form of virtual or blended programs. And we know that schools wanting to do that needed guidance and support. So there have been a couple of us working at the State Department of Education, and we have teamed up with West Ed, and we have created what we're calling a blueprint for successful virtual blended programs. This is broken down, and it's kind of like a rubric that schools can use to self-evaluate where they are in terms of their virtual or blended program, and pick one or two areas of focus that they may want to focus on for the coming year to improve their programs. So we identified 7 areas of focus, all based upon, you know, research-based guidelines, and this is providing guidance in equity, fostering positive relationships, climate and culture, instruction, instructional materials, professional learning, and leadership. And, we talked a lot about the fact that these are the areas that every school needs to have in order to be a successful school. But you do have to think about things that are a little differently when you're talking in terms of blended and distance. So this will be coming out soon. And some of your schools are already involved with our network of learning. And we will be providing guidance and resources and all kinds of tools that can be used within your school district to help improve these areas. So if this is something that you have an interest in, I believe we'll probably publish it mid-April, beginning of May, so that schools are able to do the self-evaluation over the summer and start preparing. But if you'd like to hear more about this, please feel free to email me or Aaron Espald. His email is right there, and we'd be glad to share that with you. But with you probably being some of the tech leaders in your school, if you hear talk about continuing such a program, you may want to look into this more. Okay, so my topic of the day is podcasting. Obviously, you've kind of seen that, and I started off our introduction with you sharing some of your podcasts. I'm sure with the pandemic, podcasting has really just emerged. I know podcasting's been around for quite a long time, especially in education, but it seems that all other areas have really embraced this. And just to define it, Merriam-Webster says it's a program of either music or talk made available in digital format for automatic download over the internet. So I'm sure you knew what that was, but let's examine how you can best use podcasts with your students. And first, I want to look at it from students as consumers of podcasts. There are some wonderful ways that you can use pre-created podcasts to think about increasing student engagement. Maybe there are areas that students have their own interests in, and they just want to learn more. Maybe you can find some that will increase their engagement. And we also know it's kind of like with children and their parents. If students hear that same voice sharing information over and over and over, it gets kind of boring. So it's always nice to hear a new voice with new perspectives. It also is a great way to strengthen listening skills. I know that I am very much a visual learner. It's very easy for me to tune things out. So I've been really working hard on using podcasts personally just to strengthen my listening skills. Many of our students need that as well. It's also a great way to incorporate reflective thinking skills or writing skills, across the content. Ask students to summarize what they've listened, or select a couple different podcasts and compare and contrast them, or compare the format of a podcast to maybe a video or a movie that they've watched. It's also a fabulous way for students to build independence, self-selection, student choice. But along with student choice and self-selection, you do always have to make sure that any podcasts you're sharing with students, you need to listen to the entire thing, because you never know, it's always my luck that something would be inappropriate that would pop up. So, when you're sharing that with students, always be cognizant of the contents and what could be misconstrued by students. And I wanted to share a list of podcasts. I have not listened to all of these, but these have been some that I find coming up specifically for different age groups. Podcasts for elementary students. I know a lot of teachers are starting to use those maybe as listening stations or stations that students rotate through. Like I said, there's some great ones here that you might be able to download onto maybe your class iPad or something and have them listen to. Each of those have links to the specific podcasts where you can subscribe to whatever podcast tool you use. And the last one, kidslisten.org, has just a list of different podcasts, some of which might already be included in here. I also have come across podcasts for middle school students. Again, we know that middle school students definitely love to have some of that independence. And like I said, you'll notice in the top right corner of the slide deck is a bit.ly. So bit.lys are always case sensitive, but you're able to access all of these different podcasts and links. Then there are also some podcasts for middle and high school students. I personally love the Stuff You Missed in History class. I think that that's very enlightening, especially with the education I had so very many years ago. The history lessons that I learned are not as accurate as what our students are currently learning. And we also know short podcasts are great. So when you're looking at like the 6-minute links, something that doesn't, take a long time for students to get in, they like those short, sweet little things where they're learning something new. And then in addition to students being consumers of podcasts, I wanted to share a few podcasts that I have come across for teachers. I know a couple other people have shared some additional ones in the chat, and tonight or tomorrow morning, I'll download the chat and add those to this list as well. I am a big Shake Up Learning fan, and I think it was Jenny or Sarah that was talking about the Google Tribe, and I believe that she's on the Google Tribe often. I just lost the name. One that I haven't listened to, but I thought was great, is the Classroom Commute. And, something that is just perfect for that drive time, although many times you might just want to listen to music and just kind of cleanse your mind either before or after school, but these might be things that you may want to look into. Then there's also the opportunity to look at podcasts for students or teachers as creators. So the great thing is creating podcasts reaches many, many of our ISTE standards. There are 2 for empowered learners. It's making students take their own learning and either selecting or sharing and creating. Think of digital citizenship and the fact that students have to understand that their thoughts are their own mental, goodness, like it's what they own. It's their thoughts. We don't want other people to take their thoughts. They have to intellectual property. And even using music at the start or end of a podcast, could that be inappropriate use of other people's content? Sharing information that's safe for all people and listening to information that's safe. It allows them the ability to create with their own knowledge. It allows them authentic audience to share their learning with, whether it's those within their classroom or those around the world. And global collaborator. It's a great way for them to explore global issues and share their thoughts on global issues. Now, so when you're thinking about all of those ISTE standards for students that you're able to hit by creating podcasts, you're thinking, what are some of the investments I would need to make in order to start that? And right now, I could tell you many people just use a smartphone or an iPad to produce and create podcasts. It doesn't take a great deal of equipment. It could be something as simple as a smartphone, or you could go on and think about purchasing or using maybe a computer designated for podcasting or microphones. I know some teachers have written grants. This is a great baby step for you to take if you're interested in learning to write a grant. Some of the headsets that have the built-in microphones might only cost like $35. If you're interested in doing whole class podcasts, you've got those rounded microphones. I believe they're like $100, $150. So there's a very simple podcast and grant writing. And again, I've got all those standards right there that you could use to incorporate in the grant process as well. Software, pretty much everything that I'm sharing beyond the purchase maybe of a headset is free. Most iPads already have GarageBand on them. They're a great way for you to record and or even create your own intro or closing music. And I'm going to share some other free resources for some of the music you may want to have for students to start or end a podcast with. When I go through and share all of these software, you're going to find that they're all hyperlinked. And those hyperlinks will take you to short tutorials for each of the different software titles. Again, I said GarageBand is really intuitive and easy to use. I love that. Another one that I've used is web-based, and it's Audacity. I know many of your foreign language teachers may already be using this. It's a little more complicated than GarageBand, but it's still easy to pick up. And like I said, that's web-based. Another one is WeVideo. While Audacity allows you to create longer recordings, something like WeVideo, I believe only has like a 5-minute time limit, but it's free. And maybe you're able to take a couple of those 5-minute video time limit recordings and put them together using another tool to make them longer if you need to. Twisted Wave is something that's new to me, but I've heard a lot of good things about that. And like I said, linked to a tutorial. Another one that I have used is Vocaroo. It is extremely simplistic. I think I would take Vocaroo and do the recording and then probably do any editing of that, maybe using another tool. Very simplistic, web-based. I've even used that with kindergarten students. It's super easy to do the recordings with Vocaroo. Once you have a podcast recorded, your next step would be then to have a hosting site for a podcast. Some of these do cost, some of these are free. One that I found for free is Anchor. Anchor is actually owned by Spotify. It sounds like it's super easy to upload any of your recordings, create an RSS feed, and then you're able to take that feed and share it through maybe Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. Well, this link right here on the bottom, how to post to Apple Podcasts, takes you to a website. And about halfway down the page, there's actually a step-by-step picture tutorial of how to take whatever you've put on a hosting site and share it on Apple Podcasts. And then, of course, you know, students would love to see how many people have gone in and downloaded or listened to it. So that's always another fun part of recording and sharing something. So we talked a little about some of the equipment and software you may need to use to create a podcast, but I also wanted to think either for you to create a podcast or for students, it always helps to have some guides. So one thing that I found, and this image right here is actually a hyperlink. It should take you to this actual document and allow it to force a copy so that you're able to edit, create, do whatever you want. But I thought that this was a good planning guide, especially for students, because it breaks the podcast down. What is your focus? What is your title? Is this a series of podcasts? Is this a one-time podcast? How long do you think it will take for you to share the information you wish to share? Then it breaks it down into the roles. Do you have only one person participating? From what I've been reading, podcast seems to work best if it's like two people having a conversation back and forth. I think that gives just much more liveliness to the podcast. And will you be interviewing anyone? So it's taking students or you step by step through the entire planning process so that, you know, students often just want to jump in and start doing, and we want to make sure that they're going through the design process. And once they actually have it all planned out, then the next step is more of an actual outline for the podcast. Again, this document is linked so that it will provide you a copy of it. You can edit it. It's talking about trying to take the outline down to even like minute by minute. What will happen here? What will happen there? Many of the podcasts, you'll know, they create their own music or their introduction, and that is recorded one time and then it's integrated each time so that they don't have to replicate an introduction or a closing each time. What is the show introduction? It's talking them through in the actual dialogue. Who are you? What's going to be shared? What is the topic that's going to be talked about? What is the second topic? How long are you going to take? And then it's actually going through the closing. It's reminding students or the creator to thank any of their guests, to provide ideas of what the next podcast might contain, kind of like one of those hooks for the next one. So I just thought that this was a really good way, again, to provide students the opportunity to really plan something before they create it. So I've talked about creating podcasts, but how? What value does this have within your content? Several ideas that I found. What about a weekly classroom news broadcast? We know that many schools actually have a TV show that makes all the announcements. Well, we do know that that's very costly. So this could be another alternative for your schools, that you provide them with the opportunity to create something that students can listen to at any time, or maybe it's even something that you share with parents so that they're able to see what's going on. You could also have students document a field trip, because so many times I know that in order to keep students focused on field trips, sometimes teachers will give them that, here's your, almost like a scavenger hunt. Well, maybe instead of doing that, they're taking notes of information that they can share when they get back in the classroom. You could record a classroom discussion. This one really might be good, especially as students transition in and out of the classroom. Sometimes those discussions that occur in a classroom can't be replicated by students reading an assignment or, just reading something maybe in Canvas or Google Classroom. So maybe there's going to be a rich discussion. Maybe that's when you're recording it and sharing that with those students that aren't there in person. Another idea, and this is probably one of my favorites because I love to read, have students create and share book reviews. This could be either hosted maybe just within a website within your classroom so that only your class could have access to it. Maybe it's a grade level, maybe it's a school, or maybe you're just opening it up and giving your students the ability to share that with other students their age across the country or the world. Again, an authentic audience really gives students that desire to share. Maybe they're conducting interviews. Maybe they're trying to find a role or an occupation for the future, or they just want some of those interview skills based upon a topic. And also maybe just to review curricular content. We're already using Flipgrid, many of us are, to get student information. Well, maybe you're going to ask students 2 or 3 questions and just have them record something and create a podcast. Or maybe as the teacher or a coach, you could do this even for teachers. You could just review some of the information that's been shared so that they're able to listen to it again, possibly at their own time, to review for a test, or maybe even some of the information for a project. Do you have any other ideas? Have any of you already, are you using podcasts with students? Have you had students create podcasts? You're welcome to either unmute or share any other ideas you may have in the chat box.
It's not mine, but another class here in Guyman does what's called Tiger Times every week, and they put it out on YouTube.
Okay, that's an awesome idea too.
I'll find the latest one and send it to you, Karen, so you can send it out to the rest of them.
That would be awesome. Let's see if we've got, also in the chat, let's see, Stephen also shared that he found a headset for only $16, if that's something that you're interested for the classroom. And Jenny said that in Edmond, they have some quick share podcasts from some of their librarians. I love that. And again, for the parents to listen to. And what a great way for students to learn some of those presentation and talking skills. Fabulous. Well, some other resources that you may find useful. These are just general education related podcasts, maybe blogs or articles. Some are specific to teachers creating podcasts. Some are specific to helping students create podcasts. And some are for use with really young students, and then some are more advanced for our older students. And I'm just looking, Raymond said they have the Liberty Tigers Network also. I'm going to have to check into that. Good. I love to be able to see what's going on in our schools. In addition to blogs and guidance for teachers, I also wanted to share some podcast sound effects or music, and think that these could be used beyond even podcasts. These could be used within videos, anything. These are all linked directly there. They are all, I believe, open source, free materials. I really, really, really liked some of the sound effects, because then maybe, like I said, I'm a listener to classic short stories. Think about students taking a story that they've read and adding sound effects or making their own adaptation of that story. You could have a whole listener theater created. So just wanted to make sure I could share some of those with you. So that's all I had in terms of sharing. Any other questions, concerns? I know we had some people come in late after we started. And like I said, I'm going to go back through and collect a lot of the ideas from the chat and share it within this actual slide deck. Please feel free to send other ideas to me. I would love to see samples of what's already been done and used. In general, any questions moving forward to the rest of the school year, or other ideas on what kind of guidance and maybe training or support could I provide you and or your schools throughout the summer?
Well, Karen, as you probably know, our tech integration coordinator got promoted here in Guyman. So we don't really have one.
Anyone want to go to Guyman and work?
So I've been kind of stepping in and kind of shadow doing that job on the down low. So if I've missed anything, I'd like to know about it.
Awesome. You know, I think it's those opportunities for you to share what has worked really well for you is great. I'm trying to think, one thing that I do have is I will be leading a book study on a Facebook group that I'll be creating soon. The title of the book is Adventures in Authentic Learning. I'm typing that into the chat box now. And it's by Kristen Harrington. And this will be an asynchronous book study where you're welcome to start or end at any time. I'm just going to pose some questions. What I really liked about this book is it's 21 step-by-step projects from an EdTech coach, things that some of your teachers may already be doing that might be good to expand and include technology. So be looking for that in the future. Another thing is, like I said, April will be our last monthly meeting during this school year. And I'm sure some of you have heard that Google is making some big changes. Some will, I think most of what you have right now should remain free, But if your school district is willing or wants to move up to a couple higher tiers, there will be some good changes, and there's also some good changes even at the free level. So April, I'll be focusing on some of the upcoming or current changes within Google. And that'll give you some time maybe over the summer to become familiar with some of that, or to help train some of the teachers in your district so that they're ready for some of those changes. Like I said, there is a link to this slide deck, and our next meeting will be April 26th. For those of you that might be new, the last couple of slides in the slide deck, if you have not attended the monthly meetings in the past, I have been recording those, and those are uploaded onto one of my EdTech sites on the SDE page. I'll make sure we have that link. Also, this past summer, I recorded several sessions called Tech Tool Tuesdays. It was, let's see, there was Jamboard and Flipgrid and Seesaw and several other training sessions, webinars that you still can have access to, along with slide decks for those. I also have created a tutorial database, actually two, one specific to Google tools, and then one with many other commonly used EdTech tools. If there is a tool that you would like for me to research and add to this list, please let me know. I love going through and trying to find different videos. And if you look at this picture here, it's very much a filterable database. You can filter by tool. You can filter by users. Some of the videos are specific to students. Some are specific to parents, even parent guides to helping their students, maybe with Google Classroom, or teachers. And it also is filterable by the level of the user. In addition to that, this is probably the one I find most intriguing, is I have found a resource database and I just keep adding to it. So teacher tools, math manipulatives, formative assessment, graphic organizers, SEL check-ins. Just feel free to take and use. Again, filterable by resource, by Google Slide, Google Sheets, anything that you might want. If you have something, I would love to add that as well. And that's really all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing, maybe, there we go, and say thank you to each one of you for taking the time to come today. And I'm just going to kind of hang out here and see if you have any other questions